Hi, I'm Martin Klatt from the Center of Border Region Studies at the University of Southern Denmark, and I have been working on Danish borders in the Borders and Globalization project. And when it comes to the migration, or I don't like to call it migration crisis, but the migration via the Balkan route into Europe to Germany and Sweden, Denmark as the transit country has in a way moved out and applied some rather restrictive policies, while Germany and Sweden have been rather welcoming towards the refugees that came in September, October, November 2015. The reasons for this are, well, manifold, but basically Denmark, from being a rather open country regarding immigration and refugees until the 1980s, changed the paradigm to become a country that was rather restrictive in the recent years when it comes to migration, to taking refugees or in integration policy as a whole. Partly this paradigm change started in the 1990s with the Yugoslav crisis, with that wave of refugees from former Yugoslavia that came. Well, quite a few still came to Denmark and were accepted and offered policies for integration, and today have integrated rather well. Many became Danish citizens in the meantime. But at the same time, Denmark faced a rising right-wing movement or right-wing populist party that became very successful, pulling the strings of immigration or arguing that immigration has not been successful and that Denmark itself or Danish culture and the Danish nation as such were threatened. And they have been agenda setting definitely since 2001, when they became supporters of a right liberal government, which then also introduced a lot of measures which from a European or human rights perspective sound rather strange. When it came to family reunion, for example, introducing a requirement that a married couple had to be 24, both partners, if they wanted to have their spouse to Denmark, if it was a third country citizen. And also introducing something like a connectivity criterion, meaning that a couple had to be culturally more connected to Denmark than to the other country where they had been based, resulting in very strange situations of Danes who had moved away, lived for 20 years in the US and then married an American and were not allowed to take that person home to Denmark because their connectivity to the US was supposed to be higher than to Denmark. So this kind of paradigm change also with regard to integration, where integration was more and more understood as assimilation, adapting to Danish values and cultures, resulted in very restrictive policies, both nominally but also symbolically, and a high focus on all kinds of themes and topics that had to do with immigration. And then looking at socioeconomic criteria, at supposedly high crime statistics on the one hand, while on the other hand, the Danish integration policies were not that unsuccessful when it comes to education. For example, Denmark has a very inclusive educational system. The descendants of non-Western immigrants have by now actually surpassed ethnic Danes when it comes to college degrees. And this is both male and female. Of course, for a long time it was the female descendants who caught up with Danes, but now it's increasingly also males who catch up with ethnic Danes. Labor market participation is high. All in all, the integration policies have been quite successful. in Denmark, but still there is a discourse on restricting. And this culminated then in 2015 when the Danish government actually started media campaigns in Middle Eastern newspapers, scaring refugees away, telling them not to come to Denmark, when they introduced and debated this law about collecting jewelry and all other kind of money or what the refugees would carry with them to cover for their stay in Denmark, which was, this came up high in international media, and it's kind of funny it did, because it shows that the world had an image of Denmark as being a very nice place. The happiest people in the world, open society, monarchy, and which is of course part of the Danish branding and Danish self-understanding abroad. And suddenly this nice country was being so nasty. I mean, the rules were never that drastically enforced, and similar rules exist in other European countries, also in Germany, which complained very much about these Danish rules. But all in all now, this has been, and this is continuing on a discussion, on a discourse on arguing for assimilation now, and this is becoming official Danish policy, arguing we do not want to change our customs. Based on stories that are coming up in the media every now and then about like Danish kindergartens having to serve halal meat and not pork, and where you rarely know how much fact there is behind, and whether it is like one peculiar kindergarten which has 80% Muslim children attendance, or whether this is a normal Danish kindergarten. So apparently there is this debate on that. So we do not want to adapt, they have to adapt. The immigrants have to fit into our culture, and they have to take up our values and our norms, and this being the core element of how Denmark should be, like a renationalization or a refocus on ethnic Danishness and what is understood to be Danish national culture.